Imagine a world of total, suffocating darkness, a time before the light bulb, where the night was a predator that swallowed everything whole, except in a few forgotten corners of history. The cities were glowing, not with fire, not with oil, but with a cold, ghostly radiance that seemed to leak from the very stones themselves. Travelers arrived at city gates only to find streets bathed in an impossible, shimmering blue. It was a light that didn't flicker, didn't smoke, and didn't belong in the 17th century. We are taught that electricity brought us out of the dark, but the truth is, the light was already there, and it was alive. Subscribe to our channel as we uncover the luminous secrets the history books tried to bury. This is the story of the cities that glowed before electricity existed. Number 1. The stone that drank the sun. Bologna, Italy. 1603. Vincenzo Casciarolo was a simple shoemaker by trade, but like many men of his time, he spent his nights chasing the impossible dreams of alchemy. He spent his weekends scouring the volcanic slopes of Mount Paderno, looking for a way to turn lead into gold. He never found the gold. He found something much more unsettling. He discovered a heavy, grey mineral that felt strangely dense in his palm. But when he tossed it into his furnace and brought it back out into the dark, the rules of physics seemed to break. The stone wasn't burning, it wasn't hot, yet it was screaming with light, a pale violet-blue radiance that filled his workshop, casting long distorted shadows against the stone walls. This was the Bologna stone, the world's first recorded encounter with man-made phosphorescence. To the scientific minds of the 17th century, this was a glitch in the matrix of reality. Light was supposed to be synonymous with fire. It was supposed to consume fuel and emit heat. But this light was cold, it was silent, it was trapped sunshine. Word of the lapis solaris, the sunstone, spread through the courts of Europe like a fever. Galileo himself studied it, baffled by a rock that could drink the day and vomit it back out in the dead of night. The wealthy began to crave it. They wanted their gardens to glow. They wanted their hallways to shimmer without the smoke of oil lamps. But as the alchemists tried to mass-produce this cold fire, they realized something dark. The stones weren't the only things in nature that could hold a ghostly glow. And some of the brightest natural lights in history were being harvested from places you'd never want to visit. Number 2. The alchemist's golden secret. Hamburg, 1669. A city where the stench of the gutters was only matched by the desperation of its alchemists. Henning Brand was a man possessed. He wasn't looking for a better lamp. He was looking for the philosopher's stone. He believed the secret to eternal wealth was hidden within the human body, specifically in our liquid waste. Brand spent months collecting over 1,500 gallons of human urine, letting it rot in his basement until it swarmed with maggots. He boiled the foul mixture down into a thick, glowing syrup, then heated it until the fumes began to swirl like ghosts in a bottle. What dripped out of the retort wasn't gold. It was something far more terrifying. A waxy, white substance that flickered with a pale, rhythmic green light. It didn't need a flame to stay lit. It didn't need oxygen to glow. He called it phosphorus, the light bearer. For the first time in human history, a man was holding a piece of the stars in his bare hands. But the irony was as sharp as a blade. This cold light wasn't a gift from the heavens. It was the concentrated essence of human decay. The elite of Europe were mesmerized. They saw a future where oil lanterns were replaced by jars of this living light. The dream was a city where the darkness was permanently banished by the glow of our own chemistry. But there was a catch. Phosphorus wasn't just luminous, it was volatile, it was hungry. It had a tendency to burst into white-hot flames the moment it touched the air. And while Brand was dreaming of lighting the world, he had accidentally created one of the most destructive chemicals in the history of warfare. But while the alchemists were boiling buckets in Hamburg, another civilization had already figured out how to make their cities glow, without the stench of the grave. They didn't use chemistry, they used the pulse of the earth itself. Number 3. The pulse of the living sea. While European alchemists were busy boiling buckets of waste, other civilizations had already mastered the cold light of the natural world. In the deep jungles of South America and the damp forests of Southeast Asia, the night wasn't black. It was emerald. Early explorers spoke of villages where the paths were lined with foxfire, a bioluminescent fungus that thrived on decaying logs. It provided a steady, ghostly glow that required no fuel and produced no heat. The locals would shave off strips of this glowing wood and pin them to their clothing to navigate the lightless brush. Entire settlements would shimmer in the dark, looking more like a scene from a science fiction film than a pre-industrial village. But the most spectacular glowing cities were found where the land met the water. Ancient chronicles from the Caribbean describe harbors that seem to be filled with liquid stars. In places like Puerto Rico's bio bays, the water doesn't just reflect the light, it generates it. Every time a boat cut through the harbor, it left a trail of brilliant electric blue fire. Every fish that darted beneath the surface looked like a streak of neon lightning. On a moonless night, the glow from the water was so intense that sailors claimed you could read a letter while standing on the deck of a ship. To a traveler from a smoke-choked, flickering city in London, this must have felt like stepping onto another planet. It was a sustainable, living infrastructure, a city lit by the heartbeat of the ocean. But as the Age of Enlightenment dawned, we became obsessed with a different kind of glow. We moved away from the soft pulse of the Earth and began looking for something sharper. The next discovery wouldn't just light up our streets, it would start a fire that changed our biology forever. Number 4. The deadly halo. By the turn of the 20th century, the world was tired of the flicker. We were no longer satisfied with the soft pulse of the sea or the volatile stench of phosphorus. We wanted a light that never died, a light that defied the very laws of exhaustion. Enter the most beautiful and most lethal glow in human history. In a dimly lit shed in Paris, Marie Curie discovered a substance that seemed to generate its own reality. It emitted a faint, blue-green aura that hummed with what looked like infinite energy, radium. It was hailed as liquid sunshine, a miracle of the modern age. The elite didn't just want to use this light, they wanted to wear it. Suddenly, the glowing cities weren't just about street lamps. They were about the people themselves. Companies began mass-producing Undark, a radioactive paint that promised to banish the night. Watch dials whispered the time in the pitch black. Compass needles pointed the way with a ghostly, unwavering finger. In factories across America, young women known as the Radium girls sat in rows, painting the future. They were told the glowing dust was harmless. To keep their brushes sharp, they would lip, dip, and paint, pointing the bristles with their tongues. They swallowed the light with every stroke. They became so saturated with the element that their clothes, their hair, and even their breath began to glow in the dark. They were the ghost girls, walking lanterns who shimmered on their way home from work. But the irony was a death sentence. The light wasn't just sitting on their skin, it was burrowing into their marrow. It was a glow fueled by the literal disintegration of atoms. And while the world marveled at these radiant figures, the light was quietly dismantling their bones from the inside out. We had finally found a light that would last 1,000 years. The only problem was, we weren't built to survive it. Number 5. The eternal glow. The legacy of the ghost girls didn't end with a funeral. They took the light with them. Even today, over a century later, if you walk through certain cemeteries in Illinois or New Jersey with a Geiger counter, the device will begin to chatter. 6 feet under, their bones are still shimmering with a pale, radioactive fire. It is a light that will last for 1,600 years, a literal, eternal glow in the heart of the earth. This is the ultimate, bitter irony of our human obsession with the night. We spent centuries chasing the sun in a bottle, desperate to kill the darkness that defined our ancestors. We boiled waste, we harvested fungi, and we even swallowed poison just to see in the dark. We finally won. We built the electric grid. We turned the planet into a web of artificial fire. But look up. The stars that once guided the inhabitants of those ancient glowing cities have vanished, drowned out by the glare of the LED. We have traded the living, breathing pulse of the earth for a flicker that we pay for by the kilowatt. The cities that glowed before electricity weren't just primitive experiments, they were a different way of existing. A world where light was a gift, not a commodity. Today, we are the only species that is afraid of the dark. And yet, we are the only ones who can no longer see the universe. We conquered the night, but in the process, we might have lost the very thing that makes the light worth having. If you want to keep digging into the mysteries that history tried to overwrite, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. The deeper we go, the stranger the truth becomes. Thanks for watching. Keep your eyes on the shadows.